Hello, I am Coach Sherry L. Jackson, the Preacher's Coach. I serve and support preachers. I help them to preach their best sermons. Today, I want to give you two dangers of preaching out of context. Two dangers of preaching out of context. First, let me give you a grammar lesson on what context is. I'll give it to you by giving you an example of using the word by. Now, in the English language, we have what we call homonyms. There are two kinds of homonyms. There are words that sound alike, they are spelled alike, but they can be used differently or have different meanings. There are also words that are spelled differently, but they have the same sound. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If I just said the word to, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And it should prompt you to ask questions like, tell me more. What are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Why did you say that? Because when you ask me questions, I will give you more information. I may say, go to the store. You see, that to is TO because it suggests a movement forward. You see how it works? When you ask more questions, you get to communicate better with me. That's how we do when we preach in context. We have to ask questions of the text. We have to ask questions like who, what, when, where, and why. And so when we do that, it allows us to get more information about that text to be able to communicate it in such a way that you understand it. See, by me just saying the word to, we can't have a dialogue because you don't know what I'm talking about. But as soon as I said go to the store, it allows us to engage more. And so today, I want to tell you that when we preach out of context, when we have not asked questions of the text, we leave with a bad understanding. And those who hear us do not have the full picture, and we can cause harm. And so I want to give you two dangers of preaching out of context. Two dangers of not asking questions of the text. You see, the Bible was written thousands of years ago, and there are questions we need to ask. We need to ask about the audience. We need to ask questions. Who wrote this? Why did they write it? What are they trying to emphasize to the audience to which they are writing? You see, when we know those answers, we can better understand that text, and then we can communicate and dialogue and engage that text in such a way that we can have a meaningful conversation or a meaningful sermon that will connect to those in the pew. Two reasons why we preach out of context. Here they go. The first danger I believe that we cause when we preach out of context is that we do danger and harm to those in the pew. Here's why I say that. If the sermon is supposed to strengthen a believer's faith, when we preach out of context, we actually develop believers who have shallow faith. They are hanging their hat on something that will not hold them because we have not preached the text in context. We have eisegesis, we have put into the text instead of taken out of the text. So we cause harm to those in the pew, and we develop believers who have a shallow faith. The second danger that we bring is to the preacher. When the preacher preaches out of context, the preacher becomes spiritually anemic. The spiritual growth is stunted. It is stopped. The preacher does not have an opportunity to grow because the preacher has not gone into that text deep enough and broadened him or herself. And so therefore the preacher is anemic and therefore weak. You don't have to preach out of context. There are resources, there are tools to help you to preach in context, to ask those necessary questions of the text, and then develop sermons that will strengthen the pew and the pulpit. As a coach, I want to help you to do that. You don't have to preach shallow sermons. Don't worry if you have not gone to seminary or some theological or Bible school. I can help you to preach richer sermons by helping you to preach in context and therefore maximize your influence, maximize the impact of your sermons. And as a byproduct, you will maximize your income. I understand that we don't preach for money, but it takes money to do what we do. You see these books behind me? I didn't get them for free. I had to purchase them. And if you're going to do your best work, you have to have tools and resources. If you want more information, and I believe that you do because you stopped at this video, you want to preach better sermons. You want to preach richer sermons. Email me at Coach Sherry at thepreachacademy.com. Let us talk about how I can serve you, how I can support you to preach your best sermons, to preach in such a way that you will maximize the impact, the influence, and as a byproduct, your income. Be blessed, and I look forward to helping you to preach your best sermons.